Hi everybody. As promised today, I said I'd put a video together for all of the different tools that you're going to need for completing assignment 1. Hence the slide you see in front of you. Okay. Now, one of the other things you're going to need to know as well, and this is really, really important, is how to save your project. So we'll minimize this. And I'm going to bring in a window over here. Now, as you can see, I've got a brand new memory stick in here, and it's just called Stick, right? Now, when you save a project in Maya, you have to be very specific where you're saving it, and every time you open Maya, you have to tell it what project folder you're working from. Just because you double click on a file, a Maya file, doesn't mean it will automatically know what folder you're working from. It doesn't make that connection. So there's a way of doing this, right? So I'm going to make a folder in here. I'm going to new folder. And I'm just going to call it new project 1. Okay. So I have that project. Now I've made that project folder outside of Maya. I'm going to throw this over here. And I'm going to click on new inside Maya. Okay. Now, before I do anything, the plan is to set the project. So I have to tell Maya where my project is, right? So I'm going to go File, Set Project. And I'm going to navigate to the stick I'm putting it on. Here it is, Stick. And I'm just going to select that folder. Okay? And I go Set. Now I don't go into the folder. I just select it and I choose Set. My options are select another location or create a default workspace. I always create a default workspace. Now I'm going to bring that folder back in. So inside new project 1, it's basically made a workspace file. It's made a workspace file. I'm going to throw this over here out of the way again. Now, you see at the moment all that's in there is that workspace file, which basically saves all of your settings and preferences. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to populate that folder with all of the subfolders that Maya requires. So Maya will do that itself. So I'm going to throw this off to one side for a second. And I'm going to go up to File in Maya, and then I go down to Project Window. And you see here are all the folders: scenes, assets, images, source images, blah, blah, blah. And I go Accept. Now when I bring the folder back over, it has magically populated them. So these folders are important. So when you save a scene, it saves it in here. Okay. When you want to apply a texture, you drop the image in here and you import it from here. When you're exporting images in a render, they go in here. Okay. So these folders are actually important. So once more, so I set the project. I brought up my project window, and once again I'm going to go File, Set Project. I'm going to select it once more and I go Set. So now if I go and save the project, it should automatically be saving it into new project, into scenes. So let's see if it's doing that. So if I go up to File and Save Scene As, you'll see here it says new project, scenes. Okay, so it knows what project we're working in, and it automatically is trying to save it into the scenes folder. Okay, so I'm just going to call this new project. Okay, now you'll see there's a drop-down folder here, a drop-down menu called types of file. There's two main file types you save on in Maya. There's Maya ASCII and there's Maya binary. Now we automatically save everything as both all of the time. Okay, reason being, if one of them crashes, if Maya crashes and takes your file with you, at least you have the other one. So it's important when you're saving your files that you save them as both. So let's save this Maya ASCII. I'm just going to drop it down and save it as binary. I'm going to go Save As. Now if I bring this in and go into scenes, there it is, Maya binary. Okay, I'm going to throw this back off to one side. I'm going to go File, Save Scene As. I'll leave it as the same name, but I'll change it to Maya ASCII. Save As. And I bring this back in, you'll see there's now 2 in here. Now every time I save the file, I'm always going to work in the ASCII file, and people say, why do you do that? I do that because I know that if I always work in the ASCII file, I'll know it's always the most up-to-date file. But every time I save it, I'm going to go File and Save As, and I drop it down and save it as binary, and then I go File and Save As to bring me back to ASCII, and I save it as ASCII, and then I'm working away again. It's very important that you do that every time. There's no point in only saving this file, and if the file crashes and corrupts on you, you're left with a file that's a few days or a few weeks old, which is none of your latest work. Okay, now that's that. So at the moment I have that file saved. Now what I'm going to do is, and this is very, very important, is I'm going to close down Maya. Okay. Now, in every other program that you can think of, you locate your project file and you double click on it. You don't do that in Maya because Maya does not automatically know, just because you click on a file in a particular folder, that you're working from that project folder. So what you do is this. I'm going to boot up Maya once more. Hopefully we'll just go straight in. So what you do every time is when you open Maya, you open a brand new blank project, and then you go File, Set Project, and tell it where you're working, and then you go File, Open Scene, and it should automatically open. You'll know if it's done correctly if it opens in the folder where your projects are. If it opens anywhere else and you have to navigate, you're in trouble and you've done it incorrectly, or Maya isn't working properly. Okay, so I'm just going to go New, and then I'm going to go File, Set Project. Now, because the last project I worked in is right here, that's what it's showing me. If I worked on a different project, it would be showing me that one. But I go Set, and now I go File, Open Scene. And there's my files. Now, why do we do that rather than just double click on it? By setting the project folder, Maya knows automatically that that's where all of your contents are. So if I put a whole load of source images in here and I use those source images for my textures, Maya won't know to go looking in that particular folder the next time I open it. And what will happen is all of my textures will be gone. So when I download images from now on, I'm going to put the images into the source images folder. And then when I want to apply them to an object, I will import them from there through the Maya menu. I don't just drop them on the desktop. I don't stick them anywhere else. Everything having to do with this project must now be in these folders. Okay, so that's how you do that. All right, so you can watch this again and again and again. I promise you, if you don't follow that, you're going to open the project one day and all your textures will be gone. And you'll say, but I. And the reality is, if you didn't save the images into source images folder and you haven't told Maya what project folder you're working in, the likelihood is it won't find the files. Now, it's getting a little bit better in recent years, but it's not guaranteed to do it. The only way is to save the project folder. Okay, now that we have that done, let's look at what we're going to look at today. Okay, so these are all the tools required that you have to evidence in the first assignment, okay? We have a collection of 3 still life NURBS. Now we're going to make those using both the lathing tool and the lofting tool. We'll do those in a second. A range of polygon modeling. It's going to be impossible to build your scene without doing that, so that's just going to happen automatically. We're going to use the multi-cut tool, the bridge tool, the soft select tool, booleans, smoothing, layers, combine, hyperNURBS and subdivisions. We'll do those automatically as we go, and some text. So I'm going to do each one of those now. So you can do, and then when I edit this video, you'll have the name of what the tool I'm currently describing up in the top left hand side. It's probably already up there now, although I haven't done it yet, but I will have done by the time you see this. Okay, so let's start off with the basic poly. No, let's start off the top of the list. Okay, and we'll just go with the lathing tool. So there's 3 still life NURBS. Now, as we know, NURB stands for non-uniform rational base splines, which is just great English. But ultimately, we're going to be using 2 tools required. It's the lathing tool and the lofting tool. So let's use both of them. Okay, so the lathing tool. Okay, now, as you know, we're in our 3-dimensional scene here, our perspective scene. Okay, so hang on one second. I'm going to go into multiform view. I'm just going to go down here to the front view. And I'm going to press Alt and press down on the mouse wheel. That's the wheel to drag the center of the world. That's what we call this, down to the left-hand side. Okay, now I go up to Create, NURB Primitives. Create CV Curve Tools, CV Curve Tool. Okay. Now, I just click right in the center. I'm just going to make a saucer or a bowl or something like that, right? Very simple. Okay, probably the worst one you've ever seen. So I've just drawn, just clicked and moved. And when I get to the end, I just press Enter. Okay, now I'm going to step out of this. I'm going to go back into my 3D. You can see it there. And all I do to make this happen is I go up to... Hang on, we're in rendering. We have to be in our modeling menu. So I go on up to surfaces and I choose revolve. And there you go. Okay. So that's lathing. Even though we're using the revolve tool, it's lathing. Okay. So that's that one. I'm going to move that out of the way just to get rid of it because we don't need it anymore. So that's that one. I can click on that and get rid of that. Okay. Next one, lofting. Okay. So for this one, we go to Create, NURB Primitives, and we go down to circle, and it makes a little circle. You'll have seen me done this in class many times. Control D to duplicate it, W to bring it up or to enlarge. Control D to duplicate, W to move it up or to reduce. Control D to duplicate, W to move it up, and then or to enlarge. Okay, so we have the makings of a vase. So we click on the bottom one, we press shift and click on the next one up, the next one up, the next one up. Okay, with the 4 of them selected, we go on up to surfaces and we go loft. And there's our vase. Okay, now it doesn't have a bottom at the moment, so we'll spin it over like this and we'll zoom in. And we right click on the object and we go up to isoparm mode, which is basically the same as an edge, only it's in shapes. And we click on that edge. You see it turns slightly a different color, it's a yellow. And we go back up to surfaces and we go planar. And what it does is it fills the hole in. Now at this moment in time, that base is not attached. We're going to do that now. So we click on the vase, we hold shift and we click on the base, and then we go up to surfaces and we go to attach. Now it's still not attached right now at the moment, but what we do is this. With the whole thing selected, we go on up to edit, delete by type, and history. And what that does is it basically deletes the history of how it was made, which is basically those 4 blue circles. And that allows us then to select them and delete them. And we're still left with our vase, which we can use, and with an attached base. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so that's lofting. Now, let's bring back up our list and we'll see what we have. Okay, so the NURBs basically are the lofting and the lathing. So we have polygon modeling, basic polygon modeling. Okay, so we've done all of this. This is fairly straightforward, but we'll bring up a few just to show you some of the basics. Okay, now I'm going to poly modeling. I'm going to make a cube. We'll make it larger. And as you know, it starts out with with 0 subdivisions. It's just the 6 sides. So over here in the right hand menu, and it might not let me do this on this screen, so I have to basically move the window over. Okay, so with the cube selected, if I click on polycube, you'll see down here I've got subdivisions, and I can just click on those and drag, and I can add subdivisions in all 3 directions. And there we go. Okay, so that's gonna, so if you want to manipulate some of these objects, unfortunately, that's what you have to add subdivisions. Okay, now if I press 3 now, it'll smooth. I can deselect and just show you what's done. If I press 1, it will go back to the way it was. I'm actually going to go back and take the subdivisions back off it again. So as you see, if I press 3 without adding subdivisions, it turns into pretty much a ball, because what smooth does is it basically smooths the object to the nearest subdivision. And if you don't add any, it basically goes right back to the center. Okay, so this pretty much applies for most of the objects that we can make. So that's your cube. I'm just going to move this window back again. Unfortunately, I have a large screen, and the screen capture software will only capture so much of it. Okay, so we go over to our sphere. And you know all the basics of these things already. So basically, we spent the first few weeks playing around with the basic objects and how to manipulate them. You know the story with these. W basically moves, E rotates, and R adjusts the scale. Obviously, if you grab it from the center, it adjusts it uniformly. You grab it any other way, and it affects it on that plane only. Okay, so I don't need to go into that. Okay, let's go back and look at our list again. Okay, so we've done lathing, and we've done lofting, and we've done basic polygons. Okay, so let's have a look at the multi-cut tool. Okay, so let's bring back over our cube because it's already on the table. Okay, now the multi-cut tool is normally located, to move this window, down here on the right hand side, the pop-out menu. You can also get it from the top menu, but we look at it here, multi-cut. And it acts pretty much just like a scalpel. Now, without the multi-cut tool, if we just right click and go into face mode, we can just delete an individual face of something, but we are limited to the actual face itself. But if I click on multi-cut, I can click on any edge, like so, and just draw those lines together. I press enter to commit, and what I've done now is I've basically put slicing into the face, which means that I can just select those individual faces now and just delete one of them. Okay, now we can do that with pretty much anything. You can slice pretty much anything you want. So the multi-cut tool is literally, if that was made out of cardboard, the multi-cut tool is a scalpel. That's pretty much all it is. Okay, now Let's move, okay, back into object mode and move that out of our way. Okay, now let's bring back over our list. Multi-cut tool, the bridge tool. Okay, I was doing this one in class today, but we'll do another one. So I'm just going to make a very basic cube, and I'm going to scale it up and move it up above the grid and move it off to one side. And I'm going to do the same thing with another one. And these are very kind of basic tutorials just to show you how the things work, because I know you'd forget them as soon as I say them. I would have been exactly the same when I was doing them myself. Okay, so I have two faces there, right? Okay, so in order to bridge two objects, I have to combine them. So I click on the first one, I click on Shift and hold, and I click on the second one, and I go up to Mesh up here, and I go to Combine. Okay, now you see they're both selected in green. Okay, now all I have to do is go into Face Mode, and I click on this face and press Shift and click on that face, and I go on up to Mesh, Edit Mesh, and go down to Bridge. And it combines those two faces. There you go. Simple as that. Okay, that works. As long as there's the right number of faces to connect to the right number of faces, that will just work. Okay, I'm going to go back into object mode, and I'm going to move that. Whoa, pardon me. Hang on a second. Over there, out of the way. Okay, now let's have a look at our list and see what we're at now. After bridge, we have the soft select tool. Okay, so the soft select tool is actually quite cool. I normally use the cylinder to demonstrate this. So I'm going to just elongate this, and I'm going to add subdivisions along the length. Hang on a second. In order to do this, I have to move this window over again. So I'm going to add subdivisions along the length. So hang on there 1 second. Okay, there we go. I'm going to move this back. Okay, now. So generally speaking, if I'm just in object mode, I am moving an entire object. Okay. If I go into face mode by right clicking, holding, and then letting go over a face, I can select individual faces or even a selection of them. But when I move those faces, basically those faces alone move and the edges that they're attached to stretch, but nothing else does. Okay. Soft select allows you to create a gradient of selection. Let me move this window over so I can show you this. So to get at it, I basically double click on this icon. Yeah, here we go. Now, sorry, this one here. And I click on soft select. And you see by default it comes up at 5. Now, 5 is for the size of the object I have, 5 is actually quite large. Okay, so you'll see the yellow will be the most selected. The red will be less selected, and then the black will be even less selected again. But in order to see this really work, I have to bring it right down to reduce the fall off. Okay, so let's just say I select that. Watch what happens when I move. It's a lot smoother. It's selecting that one face, but also a lot of the other ones around it. So if I was to select a selection of them, so I just drag over a selection, you'll see that it's not so sharp how it does it. I can click on OR and I can just bloat that object out. Now, this takes a tremendous amount of getting used to. Okay, so there's all sorts of different settings. I encourage you to play with them. You can change the color of the gradient select down here if you want to. This is the big one. This is the fall off. The smaller this is, the less of it will actually be selected. And you'll see the color changing as you go around. See it there? Okay, so obviously at the moment the yellow is the most selected, the red is less so, and then the black is less so. But if I was just to click on that, pretty much the entire object is going to move, except for the absolute top and bottom. Okay, but it's a very good way of making easy shapes look natural, as opposed to just pulling parts of them out. Okay, go back into object mode, and I will turn off soft select, because it's the sort of thing you either want it or you don't. Now, let's go back in here. Smoothing. Okay, there's a couple of different smoothings, but for our purposes, as I was showing you earlier, number 1 and number 3 will do. So if I just click on that object and press 3, you'll see it basically smooths the edge of it. I'll click it and I'll press 1. Okay, the more subdivisions you have, the less severe the smoothing will be, and probably the better it will look. The less you have, the more severe it will be. So that's just 1. To get out of it, you press 1. Control, you can't undo that with Control Z. It's 1, off, 3, on. Okay, now, what else have we got in here? Okay, layers. Okay, layers are straightforward. The reason we use layers is there are times that you might have, let me just show you here, I'm going to make a large box. So let's just say that this large box here constitutes a room or some manner of structure, and I want to work in that. So I want to move all of these things in there, and I want to work in it. But what I don't want to do, what I don't want to do is keep having to move this box up and down or go into X-ray mode to hide it. So all I do is I click on the box. I'm going to have to move this over here so you can see it. Hold on a second. I click on the box. I click on layers and I choose create a layer from selected. And what that does is it basically makes a layer just for that object. I can double click in here and I can just call it box, because you could end up with loads of layers. And what does that do for me? That allows me, this V here stands for visibility. I can turn that box off. It's still there. I don't have to keep on moving it if it's in my way. And then I can just bring it up at the end. So that's the use of layers. You click on whatever it is. You can click on a group of objects and say create a layer from selected, and then a layer is created. And then there's a whole lot of other settings here, but the only one that we're really concerned with is V for visible. Okay, so that's that. Now, let me see. What else have I got? The combine tool I already showed you, but I will go through it again. It's free. Let's just say I have this 4 random objects here, which I'm going to say is some kind of a horrible looking sitting room. I click on the first one and I press shift. I click on the second one and third one. Those two are already combined. And I just go to mesh and combine. And automatically they will all move as one. Now I can separate them again. I can just, while they're selected, go mesh and separate. And you'll find that these two, yeah, it's actually separated all 4 of them. So click on the first, second, third, fourth, and you go mesh and combine. And that's it. And they'll actually revolve as one around their center. So there you go. The environment must also incorporate a piece of 3D text in your own name. Well, this couldn't be easier. So let's take all of that and just throw it away. And I'm going to move this back into the screen, and I click on the T symbol, which automatically throws in some 3D type. Now I have to move this back over. So it's after throwing in a piece of text called 3D type. If I go over here to this tab here, it's called a node, and I just type in here, null, caps was on. Okay, there we go. And there's null. And the idea of that, you can put in your full name, by the way. Hang on a second. There we go. Close enough. Okay. So you'll be putting your full name into the scene, and you can revolve it and animate it if you want, no problem. But your name will be going into the scene somewhere. Okay. And it should be visible during your end animation, ultimately. Okay. So I think that's our list. Okay. Okay. So listen, have a read through or have a listen through that. You can watch it again and again and again and again if that is your wish. And any questions, you can bang me off an email about it, or you can ask me in class. Big thanks to Ken Mann, a student from a couple of years ago, who made this wonderful cityscape scene. He never got around to finishing it, unfortunately, but it was an amazing job and it would have looked brilliant. But I still like showing it to people because it was a wonderful piece of work. Okay, that's pretty much everything, and I'll talk to you soon.